They also so nice.
I can't, but I want to also like, there's this dignity of the guy. I don't, I'm not so sorry, I think I'm very wrong, but. Investigative chamber. Now we move.
Yeah. All right, everyone, well, call the city commission meeting to order at 7 p.m. October 7th, 2024. We do have a full board tonight, so we have a quorum. We'll start with our pledge of allegiance. Okay, just to start on, we have a lengthy agenda. There's a lot to cover. A lot of this stuff we could probably knock out really quickly, but we're gonna need your guys' help, cooperate with us. This weekend was tragic. It was horrifying. It was anything and everything that you don't ever want to see ever. I think our minds, our hearts are probably the exact same as all of yours right now. You just feel like, what are we doing here tonight? Why can't we be out there helping someone else? A lot of people lost something. Some lost everything. And it's just tough. It's been a day. Nothing seems to be healing right now. I think it would help all of us out if we get done with this. I don't want to take anything lightly. Everything's going to be thoughtful. Hopefully we all make good decisions. Let's try to get through this as hastily as we can. First up, we have the minutes. They're the public hearing for the budget on September 16th, the commission meeting for September 16th, the removal hearing on September 23rd, and the findings of facts, conclusion of law and order, and then removing the appointed official again on September 23rd. So unless anybody's seen any flaws in the minutes, we'll just need them approved as written. Make a motion to approve them. I'll second that. Okay, with the motion and a second to approve all those minutes as written, we'll move to a vote. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And that motion carries. Commissioners report. Jaden? I'm good. I don't have anything.
I have one thing coming up. It's under the resignation letter. There's a possibility that might be changing a little bit. So when we get to that, I will have Josh come up and speak about that. I also wanted to reiterate, this last couple of days and the stress that's been going on. I was able to witness how the police department, the first responders, the fire department, they work incredible. I was able to get an aerial view today of the damage, and the structural loss, the homes that were saved, how the fire was in fingers and waves, and I was in complete awe because with wind gusts up to 74 miles an hour at times, that should have been completely impossible. I mean, more damage should have happened, and the fire department was incredible. The community came together, and I'm so proud of all of you. I just wanted to point that out.
We all are. Okay, next is the modification and or approval of the agenda. Anybody want to add anything, change anything, or just approve it as it is?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
A second. Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the agenda as is. We'll move to a vote. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Old business. Liz, legal.
Thank you. allowing your mic, Mr. Dial.
Oh.
Sorry, we're sharing tonight. We'll pass back and forth. Apologies. Can you all hear me? I see nods. I'm gonna take that as a yes. I'm gonna try to keep it brief because as our commission president noted, we have a rather lengthy agenda. There are some topics on the agenda which I expect might be interesting or controversial in nature. So I echo his comments about attempting to approach that in a civil and thoughtful way. I'm confident that the commission board will do that. And I'm confident that the public will as well. I guess on the list of line items for the purposes of the report, I will indicate that today, shortly after 10:30 a.m., Josh, a proposed form of agreement. We discussed that briefly before the meeting. We'll kind of wait for commission direction on that. It relates to some substantial completion inquiries a particular contractor has regarding payment and retainage. We'll take that up when we get to it. I think Josh is better informed to describe the details, but it's really a deferral to the commission. I give you that heads up now just to tell you that if you wish to proceed with their proposal in some way, shape, or form, tonight we'll seek a conditional approval. That way I would have an opportunity to hammer out the discrete language in that agreement. So heads up there when we get to Josh's section and he'll be able to fill in the details. I will note that old business item number, the joint powers agreement that relates to the chip sealing. The commission is apprised of that, and I've already communicated to both the auditor's office and our commission president that I've approved the form of that legal agreement for the public's information. Joint powers agreement is an agreement reached between government bodies, which typically creates a reduction in cost of a particular project or activity. And in this case, the city of Tioga would be joining forces with Burke County in order to create that chip sealing. Burke County's attorney has approved that form of agreement as of I, so that's up to the commission to decide this evening, but it should be ready if they are ready. The other item that I think is worth noting, and certainly I'll be happy to read that resolution into the record. I appreciate Ronica sharing information with me that allowed me to draft the resolution as amended agenda item number 9. That's bank resolutions regarding financial account signers and commissioner access. I guess I'll take a moment there just to say that I know that things have changed fairly rapidly recently. But I will tell you that the members of the commission with whom I have worked over the last several weeks, largely behind the scenes, have really put their shoulders into the harness. And in particular, I would tell you that the commission president has worked an awful lot of hours and it doesn't go unnoticed. And so Brett, I appreciate that. You worked really hard and it is noted. Worth saying because sometimes public service is kind of a thankless task, but it's been a lot of hours. So anyway, we'll get to that because there's a line item there for commission access agreements. If the public has any questions about that, we're happy to address that. But I think that's a good oversight mechanism that was established over the last several weeks of communications. The next item is number 11 that I think might require my participation. That was the conclusion of the steel recall petition. I'll get to that when we hit that bullet point, but fair to give you the preview and that matter is presently concluded. That doesn't mean it can't resurrect itself through other forms if the public should wish. But that's a preview of item number 11, and we'll be happy to take any questions that the public may have about the legal conclusions reached with respect to that matter. Finally, the item where I expect the most participation is number 13. Again, other than telling you that there's been an internal investigation of a commission member, and that at present, I believe that investigation is complete or complete enough to present to the public and the commission board. That's what I will share with you now. Mr. Guy is the subject of that investigation. And I understand he's present this evening and he may wish to answer some public questions and some commission board questions. So the preview there is that I will give you a summary, a fairly detailed summary of the course and nature of that investigation, how it arose, what developed, and it will be up to the commission board and the public to determine what they believe all of that means. I think that's all I have until those agenda items arise.
All right, Josh, you're up. Clear, concise, to the point. Power through it.
We will hammer through this. Good evening, everyone. A few items for tonight. The First item is Northeast Tioga Reconstruction, Phase 2 project. The first three pages attached to that are the first page being a letter from Strata Corporation on that project. And the following 2 pages are proposed sample document of a release of the retainage bond on that project. Essentially what they are looking to do is they are requesting the city to issue final payment on the project, knowing that the seeding is an outstanding item on that project. They're concerned now they kind of missed their window for being able to get seed established this year, unless if Mother Nature does something really weird. So they kind of delayed things significantly on that project, and they're at the point where they are hesitant to seed due to potential seed starting to germinate and then winter kill and not getting seed established and having to come back in next spring again for a third time on that. So the proposal essentially would be that city issued final payment and they would provide some sort of a retention bond, somewhat like that document. Talking with Liz, she mentioned city would provide some review of that. Conditions related to that. I don't know if that's something the city wants to entertain at all from the embassy or not. So,
Did we cause them to fall behind?
deny it.
I don't understand why someone would want to get paid if it was their own fault they didn't finish. Like, I mean, it's up to these guys, but that's a hard no for me.
How much is it, Joe?
How much is
Final payment.
there? I believe on the project, the city is still holding $400 and some thousand. And the project, of course, has not met final completion, partially due to this and some other items that have been taken care of. The season, at the sole point pace, of course, I'm sure the majority of you are aware. That's what they're requesting, and I'm relaying the message as a decision for you guys to make. I will answer any questions you may have.
Well, you guys have any thoughts on
It's been a long process.
it? Yeah. A never-ending process, and I'm worried they're gonna think it's ending if they get paid the final balance, and we just don't see them again.
Well, that would be the 2 documents behind that letter were a bond, so essentially there would be a bonded component of work, of course, but yeah, I'm not necessarily arguing either way on that. Definitely, it's been very frustrating.
Well, drawn out and frustrating are 2 good reasons to just say no, I think. Stephen, what do you think?
I honestly, they're not done. The Shear said, it's nothing of our fault that they're not done. I feel like we shouldn't pay them for an uncompleted job.
And you guys held retainage for 3 winters. We're
Yes, we
going
did.
on 4. They had an easy out on all 3 of those years. I've only seen them here 4 times this year. So they're not 3. Oh, it's going down. I forget,
might feel
it's
like
been so long, I forget.
Yeah.
But you gave them, previous commissioners who gave them 3, so. 400 grand and give them back. Yeah, I would, if you guys wanna get me involved and get me back involved again to help tidy up some of that stuff, not personally, but, you know, we can we'll do a walkthrough to make it real. If they're not listening to Josh, maybe they'll listen to me, maybe they'll all listen to nobody. But it wouldn't take anybody here to do a walkthrough and say, you wouldn't pay me if it was like this.
I think we should pay them. Not yet.
All right, so you need a motion to enter into that agreement to release the remaining balance. And you're not gonna get it.
I guess they haven't, submitted the actual pay request for final payment yet. So this was more of a,
We,
is this something the city is willing to enter?
Not even in the realm.
What I
Okay,
Okay, we will move on to the next item, Tioga General Emergency Action Plan and safety improvements. So it's part of the evaluation of the town. Out there, we're working on updates to emergency action plan. Should there be an emergency related to the dam. Primarily, the main updates that we're looking for some assistance on would be operators representative. So with Jeff Mulberry retiring, he was the primary point of contact there. So wanted to bring that to the commission for I don't necessarily need a decision tonight, but if you guys do have an idea of how you want to structure that emergency action plan, the emergency notifications.
can we wait long enough to, we could fill that spot over there, Tim Christensen's spot? Before a decision is made, then?
Yeah, I don't see an issue with that. End of November or early December, we can bring that back, but yeah, just something to think about. The appropriate to have in those conditions. So. Moving on, the next item, the recreational trail project up at the dam. They're progressing with that project, placing some gravel on portions of that and getting ready for pavement. There's potential for them to start paving a portion of that later this week. But haven't heard exact timelines on that. They have a availability with their paving crew to come out and get the portion that they have ready. So progressing, that project is behind the substantial completion date as of October 1st. We kind of moved into that in previous discussions, but officially we are beyond substantial completion. Primary reason is just late start on the project. So we've been making decent progress with day one. Just had a late start on getting to the site. So no action necessary on that at this point. So the final item I have is an update on the floating boardwalk for the project there that provides the crossing from just Tioga Police Department gun range over to the boat dock, boat ramp area. So have a few pictures out there. They did have one of the gangways delivered, as well as a section of the dock. And here's kind of the location that'll be for better reference. They're looking at doing a couple changes to how that was initially set up. Initially, it was a single gangway at each end of the crossing. However, due to the kind of flat terrain off of the east, the area by the, boat ramp, kind of a flatter terrain off to the water edge from the edge of the delineated wetland. They would look at using, three more sections of gangway on that, southeast side of the crossing there to get, to the water edge. Eliminating, some of the floating dock sections due to that, real gradual transition down, the water elevation. So I provided some kind of sketches to kind of give a little bit of a perspective of that in there, along with their revised proposal, different, kind of mock-ups of the system there. Proposed, there is a bit of a cost increase on that. Their initial proposal was just under $163,000. The revised proposal, comes in at just over 171,000. So roughly 1,500, increase in cost on that, for switching that section over, to kind of, just function better. I think that section being so flat transition, lower water elevations, will function better. Water potentially has higher elevation that time. We look for the approval of that item. There are any questions?
What's the exact dollar amount?
The total dollar amount of the revised proposal is $171,034.12. The previous dollar amount was $162,580.37.
All right, what do you think, guys?
Is the picture in here from where it was previously? Or just where it's gonna be located now?
It'll be in the same location. It's just what their revised proposal is after we staked out. They made a site visit after we staked out the ends of the path, which is kind of controlled by the edge of the wetlands. So we
Okay,
have
so it's
to get
not
wetland
removed.
permitting. So it's the same alignment, same length. It's just switching portions of it from the floating dock sections to the gangway sections, which are more fixed.
More gangway, less dock.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
They talk about that. So let's say we spend $170,000 for that bridge. The bridge is gonna cross the dam, right? Why do we really need it? Who's gonna feel safe, especially a woman walking around that dam, getting on the other side of that dam, and then her by herself back in that trees and grass? I just don't see why you ain't gonna be, a person ain't gonna walk it, because, I mean, if they're a woman or something, because they ain't gonna feel safe. That's just my thought.
Is there gonna be lighting on the dock, like solar lighting and?
Currently, there's no amenities like that planned. Initially, when we were talking about the project, it was kind of let's get the trail in place, and then we'll look at kind of adding benches and other features such as like. Be a good one, of course, but safety things.
And is this the like final install for that?
No, that's just, they just kind of placed it there.
It's a boat slip dock.
Yeah. It'll have, railing systems.
Is it down in stone that we have to spend that money and put that bridge in?
I guess we would have to probably talk with the, supplier of that to see if what repercussions there may be if the city were to decide not to. I imagine we would purchase materials and some investment into it.
And no offense, but you're not cheap either. I think you got some engineering fees tied up into this as well, right?
Into the, not a lot into the bridge thing. I mean, we've done some more basic coordination with them. Really, to come up with that. The trail, obviously, there's more investment there from our end as well as there's ongoing construction of the trail itself. So.
Purpose of the dock is to help be able to cut across the dam to add to the walking path. It will be constructed safely and, rails, and we'll eventually put the lights up as it's going up.
And we can't get around no matter what anyway, right?
Right.
So we have to have a bridge.
Otherwise, it's not the circle that so many people have envisioned. I mean, there's been a lot of people that have kind of helped give us ideas with how they would like to see this to include medical personnel.
Mr. Anderson, to answer your question, I think anything's possible. I mean, am I gonna use the bridge? Probably not, but I have heard a lot of people that are excited about it. I mean, I don't wanna take the excitement away from people. That's,
We want to get to the other side, just go around the other way, bring right to the.
I know, and you can drive a vehicle on the highway and cross on the gravel, but people wanna walk, and there's something cool about being able to walk across the water.
In the spring of the year when the ice melts, and what, is that bridge gonna get destroyed, or is it get pulled out, or what's the deal?
I think it stays, right?
Floating
So
around
it's-
will stay.
Yeah,
They're
it's,
good to go. Got them at our cabin.
it's kind of like a boat slip, where it's anchored in poles, but the dock slides with it. So the poles are obviously way higher than the boat dock would be anyway for the walking path. And as the water level changes, it follows it. Same with ice. It'll just stay on top of the ice. Yeah, again, guys, I don't know how much you've heard about it, but I've heard there's a lot of people that are excited about it.
You know, we're driving around the dam, right? Walking on the lake.
You can't drive on the path, no.
Which is around the dam, right?
It's off the road from the dam, yes. The two separate entities, the road and the walking path.
We're really stalling out, so we need approval to authorize the $9,000 increase, right? Roughly $8,500.
Is it gonna church it up that much? I mean, is it worth it? I mean, if we're gonna do something, we might as well do it.
Yeah, I would say it's worth it, the challenges that, like I was saying, that the flat grade in that area down to the water, it's kind of a long, flatter grade. Versus kind of the drop down into that, and the challenges, of course, wetlands, in that area, there could be a possibility of constructing like an asphalt trail up to that, but by the time you do permitting and construct an asphalt trail up to that, the point of where it would be appropriate to come off the water, probably gonna be twice that amount. It's probably more cost effective, to address that.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve, the $171,034.12 for the bridge.
I'll second.
All right, with find it here, guys.
171,034.12.
All right, motion and a second to approve the $171,034.12 charge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries.
Okay, the next item, North Main Street reconstruction project. Construction update, things are pretty well wrapped up out there. We did hold the, substantial completion walkthrough with the contractor on, September 24th. And have the certificate of substantial completion along with, punch list items from the walkthrough there. Any objection to issuing substantial completion on that project?
No, guys, I walked it with Josh, but when was that? Last week?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Couple of really small things that I'm sure you've probably already taken care of, but it looks good. I haven't heard any feedback from people as far as water puddling up in certain areas and I mean, we walked both sides of the road in the middle. It looks good.
And like I mentioned to you during when we walked that, Brett, there is a 1-year correction period, so something 1 year from now, and maybe a couple months earlier, 10 months or so from now, we'll do another walkthrough. And minor settlement and have them address that at that time, so. Okay, moving on then, a few miscellaneous items. Do have the invoice from Knife River for the patching. That came in slightly under budget. That's substantially, probably $100, less than 1,000, I think, at least. But pretty close to budget there, so with that, probably that invoice should be approved. This and paid upon commission approval.
All right, guys, we need a motion to approve the payout for $166,220.
That sounds like a good deal, actually. We'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, with the motion and the second to release the payment to Knife River in the amount of $160,220. Is there any discussion on that, or are we good to go to a vote? Vote.
Yes.
Yes.
And motion carries.
And last couple of items I have, one being capital improvement planning, slash budget, or project budgeting. When we had done that walkthrough, Brett had some discussions, and Brett was kind of wondering about helping the city with kind of budgeting, kind of going forward. What are we looking at for projects? Kind of having an outline of what intentions are with future projects going forward. That kind of lines up with the capital improvement plan. We definitely can help with. If you guys, basically what it can be, pretty simple, or it can be very, very detailed. Right now, I guess kind of what we've kind of been operating on under previously was kind of a simple list of projects that the staff had come up with, along with some input, commissioners and whatnot, but kind of a very simple list, or you can take it to them, having a formal study done and cost estimates to certain levels, identifying different options for it, things like that. So if that's something that the city's interested in, we could certainly help with that. We could, depending on how you want to handle it, we could have kind of a committee meeting to talk details on what level the city wants to go with that. Going forward, it's kind of some key ideas started on how you proceed.
Without getting too far into it, would you guys actually be seeking grants? And then would you do like community surveys too? what I'm getting at is I don't wanna start throwing darts at a wall full of sticky note ideas, hoping one will stick and then not knowing if people will want it or like it or.
And that's a real good point, you know, that, part of that capital improvement plan can be public input, getting, you know, input from the community on how to help prioritize those projects, from, you know, the need standpoint to the, you know, the goal, more of like a amenity type project versus sewer and water that's failing somewhere now. Different ways of prioritizing.
It's worth its weight in gold for me.
Yeah, I can, one of the comments. And I guess the last thing I'm going to kind of touch on that as well is, if there is a desire for the project next year, we should start talking some details on that before some more difficult to get through all that, so. Bring those few items up.
Do we have many areas in Tioga where there's like dire need, critical infrastructure that's left?
There's, I'm trying to remember the number of blocks of older water meters, probably 40-ish. I want to say blocks of old cast iron water meters. I think probably pretty similar numbers in the with clay tiles, so somewhere. That's, I mean, if they're critical, I don't think the city's been experiencing major breaks on anything, or collapsed sewer mains in recent, you know, relatively recent history, so things are totally falling apart. But, to be honest, let them get to that point.
Josh, sir, would you move a little closer to the mic, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Very good. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh.
Next, number 3 is the joint powers agreement for the chip sealing. Liz, do we need to do anything with this?
The commission just needs to move to approve it if you're comfortable with, I think you've already approved the underlying pros arrangements, so this really is kind of a formality, but
And you said you are happy with the verbiage and.
yeah, the form of agreement looks good and I've communicated with other council too. We're in good shape there.
All right, guys, so we'll just need a motion to approve the joint powers agreement.
I make a motion to approve the joint powers agreement.
I'll second that.
Okay, with the motion and the second to approve the joint powers agreement, is there any discussion on that? Do a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, that motion carries. Okay, number 4, fuel station update. Heard a little scuttlebutt, not me personally, but through the grapevine, that when we squashed the fuel station project, this commission threw away $100,000. One, that's not true. We did give them a down payment just to order materials. We are actively trying to get a refund for that. We know there's probably gonna be like a 25% restocking fee, probably best case, but the real kicker is the vendor that all this stuff was ordered from, they're down in the hurricane zone. So not only did they get hit once, they're getting hit twice. This refund is just not going as fast as we were hoping for, but I just wanted to let everybody know that we are actively working on a refund. We are going to get a refund. We didn't waste that money. It was a down payment, if anything. Personally, I think we probably saved $300,000, if not $400,000 extra in wasteful spend. So it might not be a popular comment, but that's the one I got tonight. We are working on a refund. We won't stop working on it until we get it. All right. Number 5 is the 2025 final budget. We approved the preliminary, so 16th, September 16th. Veronica, I believe you made a couple red lines to it, right? So everything's on the up and up. We just need to approve the final budget.
For the public information, they were clerical errors. There weren't any substantive changes in the underlying numbers.
I know if you want me.
I make a motion to approve the 2025 final budget.
I'll second.
All right, with the motion and a second to approve the 2025 final budget, we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, that motion carries. On the new business, number 6 is acting interim auditor. Previously, we, I guess, appointed Desi Hansen as the acting interim auditor. After the fact, we found out there was a resolution in 2016 that actually named Veronica Peterson as the deputy auditor. So we need to pivot, shift back, and then appoint Veronica as the acting interim auditor. Does that sound right, Liz?
That's accurate.
Kind of close?
Yep. I've asked Jess to abstain from this particular vote, so if anybody's looking to move or second, she's not it.
So what exactly are you asking for, Brett? What do I need to do to move this forward then?
So I think the motion would be to appoint a different acting interim auditor consistent with the 2016 resolution.
I make a motion to,
Right, Veronica?
appoint, Veronica Peterson as the acting interim auditor, going off of the resolution from 2016.
I'll second that.
All right, with the motion and second to appoint Veronica as the acting interim auditor, we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. 7, resignation letter, Jess. I don't know if you want to take it or
I'm
John.
gonna have Josh come up. We have maybe a slight modification here.
Good evening, Chief Nelson, Tioga Police. Couple weeks back, approximately, I had received a letter of resignation from Detective Litton. That letter of resignation reflected that her final day was going to be set for Wednesday of this week. It was a 2-week notice, well, 2 week and a couple of days or so, if I remember right. After speaking with Detective Litton, she's agreed to amend her letter of resignation. She is still intending to resign from the agency. Overall, her goal is to move back to Oregon, where she's originally from. However, I was able to buy a little bit of time out of her to help us out until that point. So her modified letter of resignation reads as follows. It says, "Dear members of the Tioga City Commission, I'm writing to formally address the letter of resignation I previously submitted concerning my role as a police detective. After careful consideration, I would like to modify my resignation to reflect a new end date of December 31, 2024, as my family intends to relocate out of state. I believe this extension will allow for a more timely or a more orderly transition, and ensure the continuity of my responsibilities within the police department. I hope this request will be met with understanding, and I'm available to discuss any concerns or clarifications that the commission may have. I will remain committed to serving the community and fulfilling my duties with integrity during this period. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Sarah Litton. So in essence, unfortunately, we are going to lose Detective Litton at a certain point. However, we were able to maybe try to extend that from Wednesday to at least the end of the year until, and I guess after you approve this resignation, then start potentially seeking approval to potentially start advertising to hire the replacement of that. So
I would recommend that we would start looking now because it can take months to fulfill our police, any officer position here in Tioga.
And you can fill that even prior to her departure, right?
yeah, so that's my intention. It's such a short time frame between now and then that I can't even guarantee that we would be able to actually fill that position in that time. However, I think it would be very wise to start that process. And if we do find somebody to fill it, to get them started, we start getting them trained. And by the time that, training is underway, it would be about the time that she would depart.
Well, and the good news is we get to have her till December 31st.
Yeah,
Bad news is we only get to have her till December 3rd.
yeah.
I'm extremely grateful because it seems like we have an uptick in calls, especially during the holiday season. So the fact that she's willing to stay helps our officers a lot.
She's awesome. It's gonna be a big,
Yep, she's currently the number 2 in my department. She didn't ever formally have a sergeant or a lieutenant or a captain role. However, per her description, in the absence of me, she was the individual that led the department forward in my absence. So at a certain point here in the near future, I'm going to need to seek out who's going to help me fulfill that responsibility, because I still take vacations and go for our trainings, and certainly need somebody here that can carry forward in my absence.
I will make a motion to, I don't want to, but I'll make a motion to approve her resignation letter effective December 31st, 2024.
I will second that motion.
and with the motion in a second to accept the resignation letter, we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 That motion carries. Number 2, you need approval to
Yeah,
this broadcast.
Yeah, just one quick technicality, before I move on to that, if I could. One of the things she expressed to me was, she's trying to balance her time with her family versus time with her work right now. And I should preface this with, when we were recently short prior to onboarding Officer Helene and Officer Rising, our 2 newest officers, Detective Litton took a majority of our on-call shifts, in addition to working her regular scheduled night shifts. And that's not an easy task by any means, that requires her, at any point throughout the middle of the night to wake up and take these calls. And therefore it doesn't afford much sleep and certainly hinders, family time. So, one request that she had that I'm bringing before you is she's looking to drop a few sick days, as I suppose, mental health days, if you will, to try to recoup, to put a little focus into the family so she can come back fresh to us to carry out and finish out that time. It would be 3 days in total. And so I think employee handbook outlines how sick time should be used, and I think that we're at a point, especially with resignation on the table, that I would seek that approval from you guys.
I truly think 3 days would be fair if you guys were okay with that, wondering 3 days.
It's your guys' show. We're gonna support you no matter what.
Okay,
So you do what you need to do. We'll support.
Thank you.
very good, I appreciate it. Yep, and then the next thing would be the open position and job posting. So now that I have her letter of resignation on the table here, it would probably be appropriate for us to go ahead and start that process to advertise and hire the motion you're looking for to replace Detective Whitten.
I know on here it says open position job posting. You want to clarify that? Oh, that's a different one. Oh, okay. Sorry, never mind. I wanted to clarify, we do a panel just like anybody else does for a position here at the city. But typically they're hired, and the chief contacts and it doesn't come to the board. So I just want to make sure you guys do that. I will make a motion to advertise and hire for it to fulfill Sarah's spot.
Could I also capitalize on that too? I'm looking to see if maybe I could advertise for both the detective and a patrol spot.
Oh, that's right.
I'm only looking to hire one individual, but if I can gain a detective to replace the detective that we're losing, that would be extremely beneficial, but being that they're on separate pay grades, that would be appropriate. And if by chance I'm not able to find a detective, then I can pull from the patrol applicant pool, to fill that spot.
Do I need to amend that motion?
I think so. I think the motion stays the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion so far to advertise and hire.
I will second.
Okay, with a motion and a second to advertise and hire for your upcoming open position. We'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Yeah, that motion carries.
Thank you very much.
I want to rob you, just for a second.
Sure.
Maybe you can help me recall a little bit. And I know we were trying to keep this meeting short, and here I go, making it longer, but once upon a time, and probably still right now, there was stop signs was the hot button around here. Wouldn't think it made it to like 3 commission meetings in a row. So I spent some time with Josh, you know, a week and a half ago, something like that. And just in conversation, we were talking about these stop signs. Well, I forget how it transitioned, but it transitioned into other areas that had school shootings. Different states, of course, it would never happen to us because we're way up in Tioga, North Dakota. How could it ever happen to us? But anyway, how this all came about was Josh putting some foresight into all this, knowing that it could happen to anybody. And these stop signs weren't put in just for the heck of it, you know. If you ask him, and if you look around, they're strategically placed to create fast routes for law enforcement to get up to the school, protect your kids, protect your grandkids. It had nothing to do with speed control, anything like that. It was to make sure that our school is safe, they could respond as quick as possible. It was borderline brilliant, and I had no idea that's why. And I don't think a lot of people knew that was why. I just want to globally say, I need to do a better part of drawing to conclusions without knowing the information. I hope everybody else does too. All of a sudden, I'm the biggest fan in the world of these stop signs going up, knowing that the reason that they're there is in case the worst happens ever. Josh and his crew can get to the school, look after your kids and grandkids. I'm proud of that guy, that he would be thoughtful enough to look out for all of us. I'm proud that Jess did that too. She played a role in it. Again, I don't mean to put you on the spot or nothing like that, but pretty spectacular. That's all. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks. All right, number 8, this one is the open position. This is directly about our open city auditor role. And we gotta backfill that, whether that's internally or externally, we need approval to advertise and hire.
Is the after position appointed, so it needs to advertise currently?
Yeah, you're right. It's to advertise. You've got to be very careful as far as vetting candidates. That is a good question.
Are you
So,
hiring at large perhaps in the department, and there would be some preference given to individuals who could compete for the highest role? I mean, sort of like the PD, they have a patrol position and a detective position. And so you might hire for one or the other and move people around internally or not, but maybe it's an at-large
Yeah.
advertisement.
yeah, I think that's solid.
How would we word that? Yes, if it's not gonna be for a specific.
That's a good question. I think we would have to do a little bit of legwork that would indicate that the commission had some preference towards applicants with the greater ability of skills, but you would list all skills, and then as the commission president indicated, vet and determine who to interview. Typically, we only interview the top 3 candidates for any given position, so you can define interviews for all of them if you feel they're underqualified or not helpful. But we could work on that, Jane. That's a good question, but I don't have precise verbiage for you tonight. But I'll help you find it if you need it.
So I would assume. Yeah. As far as the advertisement goes, we would go with the current, position title, skills, education requirements. They're pretty vague, so I think that we can get a lot of candidates filing through, and the more the merrier. I mean, the more options we have, I think the better off we'll be. And we will vet them.
So right now, we just need a motion to advertise.
Yep, and we can produce to the commission. We can work, I can work on that with you, Jake, and we can prepare an advertisement and then circulate it with the commission.
So if you're cool with that, then I will just make a motion to advertise for a city auditor position.
I will second.
Okay, with a motion and a second to advertise for a city auditor position, we'll move to the vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, that motion carries. Number 9, bank resolutions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want me to read this thing in its entirety?
If you have to, I'll read it for you if you want.
I would like that, because it's real lawyery.
All right. It's resolution number 2024 blank. We'll have a number for you. Veronica, do you know the number? Not yet. We'll fill that in later. And we're referring to agenda item number 9. It's dated October 7, 2024. Be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Tioga, Williams County, North Dakota, herein sets forth a resolution to modify the signature cards for the City of Tioga bank accounts. Whereas the City of Tioga, Williams County, North Dakota is a municipal corporation organized and existing under the laws of the state of North Dakota. Whereas in light of recent personnel changes within the office of the city auditor, which necessarily caused a review of existing signers, signature cards, account agreements pertaining to all city bank accounts, and whereas in order to facilitate the orderly processing of City of Tioga business, the office of the city auditor has requested the following named individuals be designated / listed as signers on all accounts held at the following identified financial institutions. For all city accounts at the Bank of Tioga, except the municipal court accounts, the authorized signer shall be Veronica Peterson, parentheses, Deputy Auditor, Desiree Hanson, parentheses, Deputy Auditor, and Shani Ramsey. What is Shani's real name?
Chanel.
Chanel. I would move for an amendment on the reading to make that Chanel, and I apologize. I didn't know Shani's real name, and I just caught that. Administrative office, assistant auditor's office. Next category for municipal court accounts of the Bank of Tioga, the authorized signers shall be Veronica Peterson, deputy auditor, and Darcy Groshi. Is that the pronunciation?
Yes.
Okay. For all city accounts at First State Bank and Trust, authorized signers shall be Veronica Peterson, deputy auditor, Desiree Hanson, deputy auditor, and Chanel, amended Ramsey, administrative office assistant, auditor's office. Whereas it is further resolved that the commission president, Brett Renitz, and finance commissioner Jaden Iverson shall be afforded an appropriate third-party access agreement or similar arrangement, which shall allow said commission members to review bank statements, account transactions, account information, balances, and the like, but which shall not permit the said commission members to transfer funds, sign checks, or draw out or deposit funds, or otherwise transact business on such accounts at both of the above named institutions. Such access agreements may include either in-person or online access to such materials for review. In addition to the foregoing, Police Commissioner Jessica Steele shall have third-party access and a review agreement of the same nature for any city accounts relating to the city's municipal court accounts and or accounts designated for use by the city's police department. Whereas the former auditor, Abby Salinas, is no longer employed by the city of Tioga, and therefore Abby Salinas shall be removed as a signer on any city accounts and shall not have access to any financial information pertaining to such accounts. Now, therefore, the city commission approves the above named signers, third-party access / review agreements and the removal of signers as set forth herein. Moved and seconded, and roll call vote with attestation and subscription.
Make the motion to approve.
I will second.
With the motion and a second to approve the banking resolutions, is there any questions on that? Everybody good? Okay, we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, that motion carries. All right, moving on to number 10, external audit inquiry. I'll be honest, since we've had a little bit of restructuring, I guess you'd call it, in City Hall, I've been getting a lot of requests that we look into completing an audit. Me personally, I think that would be great, just because I know we are gonna backfill that role, whether it's internally or externally. I want that new person to be afforded the opportunity to have, without a doubt, a blank slate. I think that's only fair to somebody new coming in. They've gotta know, they've gotta have comfort. That's my reason. I don't know all the reasons why people have been asking, but that one's mine. Jaden, you got some probably ideas on it, but I think the gist of it is we just need approval to seek out, see if it's even feasible right now, see if it's affordable. It may or may not be, but I want to make sure that everybody's in agreement that that's something that is worthwhile.
I think it's gonna be extremely difficult to get an audit, right? And we're not talking like a forensic audit, right? Just a regular.
Well, it's up to you, really.
Guess it just kind of depends what we find out, how much is it and
I think the forensic audit for like the Williston School Board was like, no, don't quote me, but it was like $300,000-400,000.
but it turned out to be much needed. So,
I can say that our audits, have always looked good. They have always received letters of approval and job well done on the audits. You can go back and look and see that those letters are there. But I'm not opposed to an audit. I think it would be great because it would put some minds at ease. It's just if we can get one.
Well, maybe you should leave the door open, not only to a forensic audit, but there are other, sometimes you even conduct a practical audit. I don't know if they would call it an audit or an inventory or what, but I would maybe make it wide enough if you're doing the investigation, Mr. Iverson, to allow yourself to explore those.
yeah, I'm not asking for specific. I think we should just kind of leave it open to different possibilities, so.
And is there a certain timeline? I mean, once the audit takes place, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of resources from the office girls. They typically stay till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Not it, so. Just an FYI there, they might need some extra support there.
Well, I think it's necessary to do, and, I mean, I would be open to even trying to find some more help for those office girls, but that, I mean, that's a different discussion, I guess, but I think it needs to be done.
So help me out with the verbiage on your motion.
Make a motion to seek out external audits.
And second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to seek out external audits. Do we have any discussion on that, or? I know it's pretty gray, it's just really open-ended, but it'll at least get him a start anyway.
Well, at least we can figure out if it's even possible or feasible to get one in and cost.
Okay, let's move to a vote.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that motion carries. Before we move on, do we want to talk real quick about help for the office?
yeah, well, as Jessica pointed out, I think they've been putting, a lot of hours in, after hour work, and, I just think that, especially this time of year, because this turns out to be one of the busiest times of the year for them. So I'm thinking they probably need some more help in there. Especially if we were to move forward with this audit, that would just add more chaos to the mix. So I think it would be wise to maybe look into getting them some form of assistance.
So my only ask would be, A, it has to be a professional service. It can't just be folks that we pull up off the street and ask if you want to help for a little bit. I mean, they have to be trusted with reputation. It's their money they'll be looking at.
I think that would be faster too, because if we're to pull somebody off the street, there's gonna be a lot of teaching them as well to help, so that's also added work, so.
Do you think like a temp service or something like that available?
Contract service that's like used to doing this. I hate to believe that no other town has ever been through something like this where they needed additional resources.
I'm sure there's firms that specialize in that sort of thing.
Look for and solicit, I mean, I think you're asking for the ability to solicit temporary or contract labor to help fill that gap. Is that?
Yeah.
Be temporary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Interesting.
what?
So we would need a motion. Okay, that's interesting, David.
Well, I make a motion to seek out some, maybe, professional firms, hiring a firm or something along that lines to, assist our office
All right,
temporarily.
we'll call the motion to seek out a professional firm on a temporary basis.
And I would second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second to seek out a professional firm on a temp basis to aid with City Hall. We'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, that motion carries. Number 11, steel recall petition.
I can give you all brief background, just as a starter, the matter's actually concluded, and that's a discussion that was had with the committee members and the chairperson of that committee. I don't know that I would call it unpopular or popular or what the situation is, but it was a legal, conclusion. So by way of background, there was a recall petition sought and approved by the North Dakota Secretary of State. That's how that process works. If you wish to recall an elected petition, an official rather, you have to get an approved petition, which is approved by the Secretary of State for circulation. They did that properly. It articulates the bases on which the recalling committee has developed the petition. There are rules for how that can be circulated and under what circumstances. And then there's a time frame within which the approved petition is to be returned to the city, not the Secretary of State. So that's a little bit confusing, but worth it to say that the committee in this case appropriately got approval from the Secretary of State. There were some relatively significant, I won't say relatively, certainly significant, legally significant flaws that were apparent after the petition was turned in. Because of the transition involved, it's actually the auditor's office who conducts the initial audit of the petition. That audit was conducted by Abby's office, former Abby's office, earlier September 10th. Because of the transition, which happened shortly thereafter on September 16th, that was deferred to me for an independent audit. Just so the public is aware, I think it's worth noting because I know there's a great deal of frustration when you go through the trouble to submit a petition and then it's denied. There were also direct communications with the Office of the North Dakota Secretary of State to sort of vet and confirm those concerns. As it turned out, two of the flaws that were identified were significant. They resulted in a rejection of the petition. And in the case of recall petitions, you typically have to resubmit through the Secretary of State a petition if they wish to persist. So there's really not a different corrective measure. So that's the whole story of how that came to pass. But the end result for the public's information is the recall petition against Commissioner Steele was found to be invalid, and there is no pending recall process at the time as a result, at least of which the city is aware.
Okay, that is that. Moving on. Okay, number 12, the theater emergency sidewalk. Ralph here.
Question first, if this is got to do with state law or whatever, but I've cut the grass and it weeds behind the theater. I live right next door. What, all the sidewalk, railings, there was 2 cement pads, it's ground level. I'm just wondering what the deal is with the railings and the ground. It's not needed on ground level. If they had the cement pads out, 2 back doors, they can go straight off. I'm worried about access for weeds and grass and snow. They can start putting in sidewalks and railings. Like,
No idea.
just a comment, you want to drive through there.
Yeah.
Because we got the vein, well, it was a flower shop that you salon. All that snow goes back right behind the theater by the fire hall. Just more stuff in the road and then no access towards the building for weed control. I don't know. I've been doing it for 20 years of my own. Pretty easy. Just a comment. Look into it.
Okay. Were you part of this agenda, Adam, or was this just a question on it?
It's just a question. No,
Yeah,
I just saw it. Leave.
I really have no idea what it's about. I just.
Before you jump into anything, just look at it.
Well, I don't looks like we're jumping into anything. We don't have a presenter, so it's gonna hang out there until next meeting.
Well, it was tore up 2 years ago. It's been a mess back there for 2 years. It's oil and gravel. I haven't touched it. The stuff that you wrote. But I don't understand sidewalks, rails, and rails when it's ground level. Yeah, it's kind of a waste.
It is. All right. Okay, moving on, number 13, Stephen Dye investigation. How do you want me to preface this?
I think we'll just do a summary. I've prepared with notes and you all have your binders. Well, actually, I would ask you to agree with me that it is a tough topic. And so I think that we should get through the summary and allow Mr. Dye any opportunity that he wishes to comment first, and then we'll kind of go from there. But the expectation would be that it's extremely civil and deliberate, I think.
Perfect. I think it goes without saying, we're gonna hold some strong level of decorum through this. Okay.
So folks, what I'm gonna do, I have a binder that has, oh, sorry. Thank you. If you are not speaking into a mic, I do appreciate hand gestures and a heads up. I have a binder. What I have in my hands is a matter of public record, and each commission member has acted privy to this as we've conducted the internal investigation of Mr. Dye. I'm going to give you a summary of what is in this binder. That's evidence, interviews, and material that was gathered and the allegations that exist. I should note for you at the outset, I don't reach conclusions. No person has reached a conclusion with regard to these matters. That's sort of the purpose of tonight's meeting, is to have further discussion, allow the community an opportunity to reflect. Each community member is entitled to his or her own conclusions. Each commission member is entitled to his or her own conclusions. And to the degree that there are any conclusive actions that the board can engage in, that could be a point of discussion. The other thing I do wish to make clear, which I have indicated to every commission member, is that in the case of elected officials, unlike appointed officials, Abby Miscellaneous was an appointed official. The board has the authority through process to engage in removals of appointed officials. Elected officials are a completely different animal. They track with a different process. And so in order to address issues, if at all, that surround an elected official, you have three processes. That individual is permitted to resign should he or she wish. There's resignation. That individual may be recalled. That is not an initiative that occurs on the part of the commission board. That is an initiative, as we discussed earlier, that happens in the realm of the public and the community. And the third option is through removal. Removal is a process that occurs to the office of governor. It could be referred by this board, but this board will that process. So I'll leave you with that before we jump into the investigation, just kind of so you know what the board's limitations are with regard to process here. In early July, and I'm going to tell you all in reading from a memorandum which I prepared dated August 5th, 2024. That's the first document that appears of record in the Stephen Dye investigation for public consumption. It was addressed to the commission members and dated August 5th of 2024. And the title of that document is Investigative Memorandum Regarding Citizen/Community Complaints Alleging Financial Misconduct or Unauthorized Credit Card Use on the part of Stephen Dye. It was prepared by me in my capacity as city attorney. I'm not going to read you 8 pages verbatim. In early July of 2024, my office, together with City Hall, received a report of unauthorized credit card usage relating to a city of Tioga water bill. The complaining party or apparent victim of the unauthorized credit card usage was an elderly lady named Patricia Idy. Idy indicated to City Hall staff that she had become aware that someone had improperly used her credit card at City Hall. Idy stated to the staff that a bill had been paid using her credit card, which had not been authorized by Ms. Idy. And it appeared to have been accounted or paid against an account not belonging to her. Accordingly, Ms. Idy requested that City Hall return or refund the bill. City Hall did, and City Hall also made inquiry, as it always does, if there's an allegation of unauthorized use of a card. It turned out that the payment relating to that alleged unauthorized use had been paid against a water bill account belonging to Stephen and or Erica Dye. And for your information, Stephen and Erica are husband and wife, and so it's a joint water bill account. At the time of the questionable transaction, it was determined that Mr. Dye did have a water account. He and his wife was City Hall. And at the time of the allegation, Mr. Dye was then serving as a commissioner. He was appointed to office or not appointed, rather, sworn into office on July 1st of 2024. As you might imagine, that's a little bit uncomfortable to have city staff know what to do with an allegation against a commissioner. That was referred to me. I indicated that Mr. Dye was no different than any other member of the public as far as that type of allegation was concerned, and it should be referred to law enforcement. Because in the city of Tioga, if there's an allegation that someone has used your credit card improperly, we send it to law enforcement for investigation. That is what happened. That was particularly important in this instance because I don't think it's fair to saddle city staff with investigating their bosses. And so it went. I did indicate at that time and after we became aware of it that it would be appropriate for the commission president, and I stand by that, to ask Mr. Dye quite directly, if briefly, if he knew or acknowledged any misuse of a card or any form of payment as it related to the city water bill. The commission president did that. Mr. Dye indicated that there had been a problem with the bill pay within the city of Tioga, and he knew nothing of any unauthorized use at that time. As a result, we asked law enforcement to make its inquiries, and they began to do so. In that same window of time, so we're creeping into late July and perhaps early August. At that juncture, there were rumblings within the community and rumblings regarding continued or prior, I should say, unauthorized credit card use outside of the city water bill alone. Ultimately, on July 17th, I took a phone call from a concerned member of the public. That individual indicated to me that she had been in communication with Patricia Eide. She perceived Patricia Eide to be, again, an elderly lady, a very kind woman who may be vulnerable in some respects, and asked that I be made aware of additional alleged transactions, which that reporting individual, that gal, said had been committed by either Erica or Steve. More specifically, that individual asked me during that inquiry on July 17th, if the city could look into it. I told her to the degree that that was possible, we would, and she specifically indicated that it was her deep concern that that kind of financial misconduct, if true, would certainly affect Mr. Dye's character or fitness as a commissioner. I referred the information she sent to me. She sent me a series of messages that appeared to have developed or were represented to have developed between the Dyes and Miss Eide. So there were communications in the form of messages that were changing hands between Patricia Dye and Stephen and or Erica Dye. I gathered those messages and I sent those along to law enforcement. Worth noting, law enforcement locally, that's who we deferred that to initially. The cops are pretty smart in this town and they're skillful from an ethical standpoint. And so they understood that there could be a potential conflict, right? Because the commission is their boss too. And so appropriately, Sarah Litton, the detective you just heard about, she gathered that information, but she trafficked that along to the Williams County Sheriff's Office because that would be the independent agency who would be without a conflict. And so it progressed in that manner. Okay, so we had the citizen report and we deferred to law enforcement and law enforcement deferred to other law enforcement. We're going to clip forward in our investigation. The allegations that were ultimately presented to law enforcement included the allegation directly from the victim, actually, through a commission member, the police commissioner, that there were a series of unauthorized transactions which occurred over a period of several months immediately prior to Mr. Dye taking office. There was an indication that some funds were willingly given. Those were not an issue. There were loans and gifts that were given, but there were a series of alleged transactions with regard to credit cards, some of which included a purchase at Menards, booking and travel expenses, for hotels or Expedia.com, other utility bills, and, Menards points rewards. That's what was known or generated at that time. The tally of that, depending on whether you construed them to be loans or unauthorized uses, may have varied from over $500 to many thousands of dollars. It sort of became a question of what was authorized or what wasn't. Ivy did not believe, according to what was received, that she was receiving a sufficient explanation from Mr. Dye or Ms. Dye, who either indicated at that juncture in the investigation that there was an issue of accounting at City Hall and or a broken cell phone, which was owned by Erica Dye, which Erica Dye said was responsible for the additional fees. So we were made aware at that point that the city bill, the Dyes asserted was an error on the city's part, that somehow the city had misbilled Miss Ivy's card. Subsequently, the other transactions, those being the hotels, the MDU bill, the Expedia bill, the Menards points, those were alleged to have been the result of a broken phone. And we'll get to that a little bit later when we talk about interviews. Miss Ivy was upset enough that she actually went to go speak with Menards, and she trafficked that information to us. And Menards produced her surveillance footage, which appeared to show in the form of photographic evidence, Erica and Stephen Dye at Menards on the date and time of one of the questionable transfers. She struggled to reclaim the funds during that window, according to Patricia. The memo, and I'm going to scoot forward because this investigation continues. So I indicated that memo was drafted on August 5th of 2024, and it was specifically indicated that investigation was not complete at that point. I did not have any reports from law enforcement. I did not have the complete, well, from our own PD or Williams County at that juncture. There had been no interviews that I was aware of, whether undertaken by the city or another entity. We had a host of messages. Those are all publicly available. And that's kind of what we were relying on, and communications through one commissioner acting in her official capacity. The principal issues that kind of started this, just so you guys are aware, because I think that's what it's saying, is that there were a group of community members who were deeply concerned with the guy's character and fitness to serve in a capacity as commissioner. There was also a concern, and I wish to raise it because I know that was not the commission's intention. There was a real concern that we were bearing an investigation. We weren't. It takes time, and I think it's fair to say that when there's an accusation, you take the accusation seriously, but you also take seriously the process to facts. That's fair to everyone involved. That's the purpose of tonight, is to give you a full airing. It was also important that the commission members be kept abreast of the allegations, but kind of in a contained environment. It couldn't affect business as usual. We have a lot of things going on, and frankly, we didn't want to discuss it at every meeting because it wouldn't have been fair or fruitful to anyone involved. But it was certainly at the top of everyone's mind, and it's frankly been challenging for everyone involved, I think. So I'm going to fast forward what I'm flipping here, just so you don't think I'm cheating anything. These are all the messages that were collected. Actually, let me flip one more set. These are all the messages that were collected during the preliminary phase of the investigation. That's not law enforcement reports. That's not audio recordings. That's not anything else. Those are just the messages that sort of started it. So that was circulated to the commission on August 5th. On August 7th, we had another supplement to an investigation. That's the point at which we received law enforcement, the initial law enforcement reporting, and that came from the Tioga Police Department. The Tioga Police Department did confirm in their reporting rather, they had made preliminary contact with Patricia Ivy that she was indeed frustrated. She had not been reimbursed. She believed there were a series of unauthorized transactions. She believed, and I'll tell you what they were. There was Expedia in the amount of $214, according to the report, Sam's Club in the amount of $162.58, an MDU bill in the amount of $201.89. And then the city of Tioga bill we earlier referenced, together with a Menards charge of $274. Ms. Ivy provided various documentation in support of that assertion. And because in the same window, the Dyes had expressed the position that perhaps a city billing error had been the cause of the issue of the city bill, I was simultaneously requested the auditor's office print, for the purposes of the investigation, a complete accounting of both payments and any amounts due on the Dye account. They did that, and I supplemented, the investigative chain or memorandum or file with an email dated August 8th of 2024. The summary of that, accounting, is that there was no irregularity in the city's billing. There was no explanation as to why the city would have been responsible for a charge against Ms. Idy's card payable to Mr. Dye's account. Also on August 8th, and I want to thank Detective Ward. Detective Ward was the gentleman who worked for Williams County Sheriff's Department who assisted in completing this investigation. It's worth noting that law enforcement is sometimes reluctant to provide earlier advance reporting or even complete reporting if there's any issue with the potential of it. And because of the nature of the situation, Mr. Ward was willing to document and share his reporting with us at written request. He did prepare a police report or case narrative that was dated August 7th of 2024. During the course of his investigation, Detective Ward spoke first with Officer Linton of the Tioga Police Department. He became aware of the charges that I've just alleged to you. That is the water bill, the NARS, the Expedia, the hotel, yada, yada, yada. He documents that in his report. He did a preliminary interview with Patricia Idy by telephone. She indicated she had not been paid back to that juncture. She also indicated she did not wish to press charges. And for what it's worth, I'm going to give you the summary and tell you Miss Idy and her husband, Stephen Idy, they didn't wish to press charges, but they wish to have their money back and they wish to have the matter examined. Detective Ward also spoke to Chief Nelson. Those conversations are documented. Chief Nelson just provided the information that Tioga already had about the city accounts and the accounting and what that looked like and when the transaction occurred. Detective Ward sat down with Patricia and Stephen Idy. Patricia and Stephen Idy's were not recorded on audio typically, or I won't say typically, often law enforcement will record via audio or video footage interviews. Detective Ward did not do that in the case of the Patricia and Stephen interview, but he indicated everything that had been alleged to that point as having been conveyed by them during the interview. Detective Ward, because he's a solid cop who does his homework, did speak with Adult Protective Services regarding the vulnerability issues or potential vulnerability issues. Adult Protective Services determined in this instance that Ms. Idy did not fall within the scope of the law's definition of a vulnerable adult. And so that piece of the investigation was discarded. Detective Ward also spoke with Stephen Dye. Unlike the Idy interviews, the Stephen Dye interview was indeed recorded. It has been extended and has viewed or listened to, I shouldn't say viewed, but listened to an audio recording of the interview completed by Detective Ward with Mr. Dye. And I will say that Mr. Dye voluntarily engaged in every interview in this process. So that was appreciated, whether that was through law enforcement or through the commission. Mr. Dye at that juncture began explaining the issue of a broken phone on the part of Erica, indicated that, he hadn't paid the money back at that time, but it was his intention to. There had been some struggle in trying to pay the money back. And on the report, I'm just going to hold those up so you can see them. There are attachments to Detective Ward's report. Those are inclusive of various receipts accounting, for the charges at issue there, together with some surveillance photo footage and other materials collected through the course of his leg of the investigation. So now we're going to fast forward to the next entry of August 8th. Detective Ward was very good. I said, well, can we have the audio of the interview? He said, you can. He sent it. We dispersed that amongst the commission. That likewise happened on the 8th. The city auditor's office on October 15th did me the favor of doing a more thorough accounting of communications that had transpired between the Diet and the office of City Hall, because there sort of was I don't know if it was a miscommunication or a misunderstanding of what the communications were. In the city's accounts, there are logs of communications. The Dias and City Hall had different perspectives of what those communications were. So Ms. Hanson, one of the deputy auditors, that's what I'm holding up here, gave a written recitation of what she recalled those inquiries being between Erica Dye and her office, together with actual screenshots, and that's all this stuff, of the accounts, because I didn't want there to be any question about what was in the city files. I can't control what's in the other files, but certainly I want to know what the city record reflects. We were very frustrated, and not outward, but I was very frustrated that there was no audio recording of Patricia and Stephen Ivey, right? That's an important thing when you're trying to establish what happened, is to know details as people convey them. And so Ward did a fabulous job in his reporting, but it's not the same as listening to a recorded interview. But he's a very nice fellow. And I asked him if he would call me to answer a few questions that I had, because it was starting to look like a situation where we were sort of boiling down to a contest of credibility. And he was the guy that did the interview, and I wanted to know what he thought. And he was willing to tell me. Worth noting, I sent a summary of that call that I had with Mr. Ward. I had that call on August 16th of 2024 morning, and I updated the commission with those findings. Detective Ward confirmed that his reporting was accurate. I asked him about various portions of his reporting and wanted to confirm there were no typographical errors or no misperceptions on my part. He indicated that his portion of the reports as they related to the interviews of the IDs was indeed correct, and it was documented as he intended with regard to the allegations. He explained that the ID interviews were not recorded because they were victims, and as victims, they did not wish to press the matter criminally. I asked him why he thought that was. How could you allege that someone stole from you? What was your view of why a person wouldn't report that? He said that he thought they were very nice people, and that Patricia Idy's chief concern was really a matter of not wishing any harm to come to the parents of a young child. She was concerned that criminal consequence might result in something like incarceration, and that would hamper their abilities to parent their child. That seemed to be very bothersome to Patricia. She also indicated that she didn't really want it to be a mess in public. That was part of it, a little late for that, as you might all tell. Her husband, Stephen, was likewise reluctant for the same reasons. And I think he was even more reluctant, was the impression, because it's embarrassing. If you feel taken advantage of, it's an embarrassing thing to have discussed in public, and that was what Ward perceived that to be. I asked him if he thought they were credible. That might sound like a funny thing to say, but I like to ask interviewers, if they're trained interviewers, whether they believe those individuals are credible. Detective Ward indicated, and I'm almost quoting you verbatim, that he believed them to be honest, forthright, and able to explain and provide documentation consistent with their allegations. Detective Ward confirmed for me at that time, and to Mr. Dye's credit, he confirmed to us later in an interview that there was actually more than one card at issue in this case. I was a little confused at the beginning. Was it only the card used for the city account? Was it another card? How many cards do we have at issue here? Because that might become relevant in the way of the broken phone or not, or whatever. There were actually two cards. Both parties confirmed that. Detective Ward confirmed that Patricia had supplied a list of both gifted and quote unquote loan funds, which the IDs did confirm they voluntarily gave to the Dyes through the course of investigation. And he also provided, well, let me just read you what he said. Per Patricia, Ward understood that between November of 2023 and March of 2024, the IDs gifted or loaned the Dyes approximately $10,000, not including non-consensual charges. So I've read you the non-consensual charges. Those are all those credit card entries that she alleged were non-consensual. So in Patricia's mind, it was 10 grand plus the non-consent, give or take. I indicated that was a summary of my communications with Detective Ward. He was quite decent in telling me that if the commission members wished to speak to him directly, he would certainly do his best to answer any additional questions that they may have. And he was apologetic that he didn't have the audio of the ID interviews, but he was trying to request, or respect rather, the request of the victim, and I understood that. On 9/21, well, let me back up. After all this became aware, I've been in heavy communication, and I really do want to thank the commission president. He has been fabulous in helping me through this process, and I'm trying to stay neutral. I'm a fact gatherer. I would say that Brett is extremely neutral, and he maintained that position. And it's a very uncomfortable situation for Stephen. It is. I don't care how you see it. It's a crappy situation for everybody involved. And so we worked pretty diligently to try to, we wanted to speak with Stephen directly, right? A series of allegations have been made. They seem pretty serious. We wanted to hear Stephen's side of the story. And so Stephen agreed to conduct an interview with Brett and I, a recorded interview. On September 19th of 2024, we conducted that interview at City Hall. At that time, we were kind of calling it a concluding interview because we believed that law enforcement had provided to us everything that we could possibly collect from them. And we had everything we thought that we could collect from the IDs based on how that investigation had transpired. And Stephen came, and he came voluntarily, and he came with his wife. That interview took approximately 3 hours. It was a very long interview. Both Stephen and his wife gave us information during that interview. You know, the long and short of it, I guess, we do have the interview. Again, it's recorded. You can request it if you wish as a public record. It's a long listen. It was long to do the first time. It was long to listen to it a few times thereafter to do documentation. The long and short of that was that Stephen indicated at the interview that he had then paid Patricia back, so that was kind of a non-issue. Erica indicated that all of the quote-unquote non-consent charges were a result of her broken phone. She did show video footage of a phone which had been cracked and was malfunctioning. She did present a series she read and showed intermittently, sort of this number when you're flipping back and forth reading something. Messages which sometimes tracked with what the IDs had shown us and which sometimes diverged with the messages that the IDs had given us. And I think that the dyes, they definitely suggested during the interview that there was context lacking in what we had received. Perhaps that, and I'll let Stephen speak for himself, but it was my impression that one of their chief concerns was that we hadn't had the totality of the messages and we didn't understand the totality of their relationship to the IDs. So we took that into account and we appreciated it. We recessed in the middle of that interview, and this becomes relevant for the next leg of the investigation. Brett actually asked a really astute question, which was, what's the nature of the friendship now? What's the nature of the relationship? Is there any possibility towards reconciliation? Is everybody paid up? What's the story there? Kind of an important practical concern in a small town. Erica Dye represented to us that actually had texted her 2 days over and or earlier rather, so on September 17th at 9:24 a.m., indicating that in fact Patricia ID wished to reconcile. She wished to re-engage with the Dyes. She wished to, it was fall and it was over and she wanted everyone to move forward and sort of a no harm, no foul situation. Erica Dye read into the record verbatim at my request what she said was a text message dated 9/17 of 2024 at 9:24 in the morning. And that message, I'm just going to read it to you because this explains the next leg. The message that Ms. Dye read into the record says, quote, "It is now fall, enough time to get us back on our," and this is supposed to be coming from Patricia, "back on our feet," and I'll pardon my French, but I'm reading you verbatim, "and the shit flowed over. Can Steve come out and do a few works?" Bracket Erica interjects from verbatim reading the correct grammar. She said, "Works in the yard for us. Let me know. It's time to make good on everything and become friends again. Everything can be worked out." Heart emoji. That was the representation of the reconciliation message. I circulated all the information from the interview. And frankly, I indicated to one of our commission members that because Pat ID was communicating with her quite frequently, I would like her to exercise caution because it seemed like there was a real dispute about what various messages said or that messages might be missing. And so I would like her to limit her scope and tread lightly without compromising her friendship. I think that commission member was maybe frustrated, and I'll let her speak for herself. So she contacted Patricia Dye directly and wanted to know if there were missing messages or if Patricia had misrepresented any messages to her, which Patricia had asked her to gather. I think the summary there is that, we were shocked, and I'm gonna read you the message that's photographed and attached to this report, that Miss Heidi said was actually sent on 9/17 of 2024 at 9:24 a.m. That message, according to Patricia Heidi's phone, actually read, "It is now fall, enough time to get back on your feet. So I think it is time to start paying back the loans we so graciously gave to you. $6,000 cash, $1,500 February rent, $425.61 on a birthday gift at Menards, and I still stand firm on all caps my reward of $504.89 you stole off my card. It is time to make good on what you owe us. A payment plan can be worked out." I circulated that to a chain. There's actually a photograph of the message, not a screenshot, not a transfer, because that was certainly concerning to me. And I haven't interviewed Stephen Dye since. Now, I did ask a member of the commission to speak with Mr. Dye. And in fact, Mr. Dye asked to speak with a member of the commission after receiving that and wished to rebut that. So I think we'll hear more about that tonight. My information based on Mr. Dye's rebuttal is that Mr. Dye says that there were actually 2 message chains, and both messages were real. And both were dated September 17, 2024, and both sent at 9:24 a.m. I have no idea in my mind how that can be reconciled. But I think that those are questions that can be addressed this evening. So with that, folks, that's as much as I can tell you at this time. That concludes the investigation, and that shares with you what amounts to available process and will allow Mr. Dye to speak or stand for questions as he may wish.
Have a lot of questions. Can I come up?
Well, let's let Mr. Dye.
Hello. For those who don't know me, my name is Stephen Dye. I am the water commissioner of the city of Tioga. Last night, I typed this opening statement up to try and go over everything that pertains to tonight. Let's begin. Roughly 3 months ago, in my opinion, a few very small accidentals got blown out of proportion. Because I am on the commission board, maybe it is to paint me out a bad person. Maybe it is painting me out as an untrustworthy person. Maybe it is to put doubt in your minds. Or to potentially get me kicked off the board. However, I am here tonight to answer questions the best I can pertaining to the investigation and incidents. To help anyone who is unsettled by what they have heard. This is a voluntary on my part. I will only be answering questions that pertain to the last 3 months of my life. I also encourage you to do your own research. My phone number is all over Tioga. If anyone has any personal questions they want to ask, they can message me. Also, one part about the $75 charge. My wife actually called in before we even knew about any of this, asking what that was on our account, because we didn't know. We actually called the city before we were even asked, contacted, or anything about, before we even knew anything. But with that said, I will take questions.
Do I have to come up?
Or maybe,
Okay. So I'm Jennifer Wanzer. I have nothing against you personally. In fact, I marked the box next to your name during voting. But I am friends with Pat. She's been friends with my mom for a very long time. I've messaged Pat a lot through the years. And you know, on messaging, how it takes a long time, the dots, when somebody is typing back.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that Pat could not type out both those messages in 1 minute in 2 different parts of her phone and send them to you. So I have a question. The text message, did you see that? Or did you see that? Anybody see that? Because you do have a photo of the Facebook message, right? What about the actual text message that was sent?
I saw a picture of it on a piece of paper, a screenshot.
But does it say it's from Pat?
It was, like I said, it was a printout.
And Pat indicated to me that you had told her the Menards charge was an accident due to Erica's broken phone. Yet on the video, it's you using your phone to pay for that charge.
I was
How
not
do you
using my
explain that?
phone. I explained that by saying I had a phone as well, yes. I
But
was,
you told her it was on Erica's phone.
yes, and I wasn't the one inserting information. Yes, I was on my phone. But I wasn't the one using the kiosk, I guess, or whatever you want to call the machine.
And you, if Pat had wanted to press charges, how would you guys handle this?
Well, if I had wished to press charges, I mean, first of all, that's not at our discretion, and I want to be clear that the commission board has not it indicated to law enforcement we have any preference one way or the other. We just want the underlying information. Frankly, Ms. Wanzer, I don't know that that would have changed anything because we can't, as I mentioned at the beginning, the only ways to address a public official if there's a consequence is through recall, resignation, or removal to the office of the governor. So the board could have noted it. What would have happened is exactly what's happening here, frankly. We would have waited for the outcome perhaps. I think Mr. Dye might have been more reluctant to interview, but maybe not. I mean, you were interviewed through this whole process. I think there could have been aspects of the investigation that changed, but I don't think we would have landed in a different spot than we're sitting right now because there's no authority to do anything other than what we're doing right now.
Okay. How does a broken phone do that? I don't understand that.
I wish I could give you that answer as well. I know her phone was opening all sorts of different apps and everything. Finally, at one point, we did just decide to turn it off before we got a new phone. And I wish I could tell you how technology does all that. I don't know. But I know her phone was opening everything possible. It was malfunctioning. And we were trying to be able to use it the best we could. But
So as far as the city water charge, was that the broken phone's fault or in your mind the city's fault?
possibly the broken phone's fault, but again, we contacted the city before we even knew about anything, because we were curious why that was on there. We even said, hey, we didn't do that charge. We were just asking what it was. We, at that time, had no clue about everything else that was going on or any of that.
Has Pat been paid back completely?
Yes.
I have a question for Stephen, because I needed to talk to you after the first interview, I guess. You talked to me for 3 hours the first time, so it's been long, but what's the story on the second text message? I mean, that really does that's probably the single most concerning fact to me, and it's worth saying because I would say that to any of you, that I rely on what each of you tell me. And I don't want there to ever be a gut feeling on my part that I can't rely on what you tell me. And I don't understand how we could have two text messages that say two completely different things in the same moment. How did that work?
I wasn't the one that sent the messages, so I'm not sure how that necessarily would work. But I know we have a screenshot of the message. It was a text message, not over Messenger, but a text message that she was reading off that day in the interview. And I know we have a screenshot of that, but I couldn't begin to tell you how that works.
If I could talk on that point just a little bit, I wanted to clarify something. So obviously I am the commissioner that had been receiving the messages. Pat Heidi wanted me to have the messages because she said some of them had started disappearing. So she sent me conversations back and forth. She had actually reiterated to me the message that day. I was leaving for Grand Forks. And I was busy. This was just after the Abby thing came up. I was trying to get ready to go to Grand Forks, get things done. And she told me that she messaged the Dyes and she was asking for her money back and she kind of went back and I was busy and she actually had wanted me to come out there, stop by really quick that day and I couldn't make it. So I was on the phone, right, and I'm sorry, I can't make it out there. I've got too much going on. I didn't think too much of it. And then that's when Liz called me. It was when I was heading back from Grand Forks and she informed me of that message. And Liz, I don't know if you can remember, but when you had told me, be careful because they indicated that they were,
On the ends.
yeah, they were on the ends. There was heart emojis and everything. They said, something finally clicked in my brain and I know at one point I told you, Liz, that's not right. So I did talk to Pat and I said, Pat, you told me you talked to the Dyes on the 17th, 9/24, whatever, it was specific. And she said, I did. And so she forwarded me that message and I have that message, she forwarded it to me. And then I told Liz and I called Liz and I read that message back to her, like immediately. In fact, I forwarded it to you immediately because that is not the same message. So from there, when I got home, I went out to Pat's house and I asked her if I could see her phone. I did not tell her why. I asked her if I could see her phone. Steve was sitting at the table as well. And I said, I just want to see the message that you sent on Tuesday at 9:24 in the morning. So she showed it to me and that's the picture Liz has. I took my phone and took a picture of hers. In fact, what happened was I accidentally had bumped the thumbs up button on the phone because she handed it to me kind of awkward. It took her a minute to get to the message. She's a little bit slower when she's pulling things up. She can't just go in quick or do anything like that. So when she handed me the phone, I accidentally hit the thumbs up button. So I laid the phone down, I took a picture, sent it to Liz. Liz then sent it to Brett. Liz and I played on Messenger if you were to edit.
Between us, not on Patricia Ivy's channel.
Yes, not
Let's be clear.
we wanted to see if you were to edit a message. So did Pat throw this message at them, wanting to be friends, and then edit it afterwards to reflect that she's looking for her money back and she wants work done, whatever. If you edit it on Messenger, Liz and I both seen that it shows edited. If you remove the message, it shows that you remove the message. That message was sent. I don't know about the other one. That one was not on her phone. I did not see it. It's 9:24 a.m. specifically, the same time they have the screenshot of the text message that says the complete opposite. I just wanted to say that. Another thing in the interview, I feel like this is really important. Steve, I don't know you, but you guys both brought it up that you felt that I was a driving force on basically a political persecution. And I don't know you, but when somebody, especially a friend of mine, and I've been friends with her for years, when she comes to me in a capacity and is telling me that her credit card was stolen or used without her knowledge, I think any person in this room would say, please go to the police department. I never asked her to press charges, not once. I actually even sat down with Pat Ides and Detective Ward. I originally declined because I wanted to stay out of it as much as possible. Because if we are supposed to work together, I needed to be able to keep some sort of a relationship here that would solidify us and working as a team. But in the end, I did end up going out to Detective Ward's interview with Ides because she begged me to come. So I did go there and I am confident if you ask Detective Ward, if at any time did I ask Pat to press charges, he would say no. I know he would. I'm positive of it. I do not want you to think that I have done this from the start to get you off the board. I believe what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. I will always think that way. I just want you to know that.
Do you have the screenshot with you tonight? Do you have the competing message?
I do like you, but I don't want to make that public. I have that for a different reason. I was going to show you
Can you, here, I don't want to make you put anything into the record, Stephen, but can you share it with the commission and I? You cannot offer it into the record and we can choose not to accept it into the record, but can we see it?
I will show, I'm only gonna show you. I have shown somebody on the commission board already. But so to speak, for future things, no matter what happens, this has been a back and forth situation. No matter what, like, I have many things in here that go against certain things that Patricia has said. I have quite a few just different items here, including that message, yes. But everything has been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If I show this, then something's gonna come up and there's gonna be something else that I have to defend me or my family for. That's all this has been, just back and forth nonstop. But yes, I will show you in private.
Yeah, I don't want to do that on the record, and in fact, at this time, I don't want to see the message unless the entire commission can see it, because frankly, like I said, I'm not the fact finder. They're the fact finders, these are conclusions that the community and the commission needs to reach. I don't want to pocket information that I can't share with the commission. That actually leaves me trouble.
Fair enough.
I appreciate the offer though, I don't want you to take offense to that, I just don't think it'd be appropriate approach in this instance.
I'm not real sure where we go from here, because that's all I want is facts, and we have put so many hours into this, like crazy amounts of hours. Everybody says that when they work on something, that I put so much time into this. We legitimately put so much time into this. I feel just as lost now as when we started. It's like a he said, she said, I don't know, maybe you know, but can I trust you? Maybe not. You just don't. Just gotta draw to an end at some point, and I just feel like we're not getting very far.
The end for us is airing it. Yeah, I mean, that really is, you all can't do anything. I mean, the ball is in the public's court or Stephen's court. The commission has extremely limited authority. There's nothing the commission could do one way or the other. You can't debate it, but you also can't force anything.
I know, I just,
The fact is, at this point, the companies have been paid back. And they were paid back months ago. We personally contacted each company to make sure that they were paid back. We actually had to make a special trip to Bismarck, can't do this stuff over the phone. So we actually had to go to Bismarck to do it. Obviously, we had to go to Williston. But I wouldn't wish this upon anybody, neither side of this. This has obviously not been fun for me or my family. This, I know, has not been fun for the IDs. We did love them. We did consider them practically our parents, as we tried to treat them with the utmost respect and everything we could. But in general, I feel like this has to come to an end. I know they have been through a lot. I know my family, including multiple different threats. My business being boycotted, my wife's business being boycotted, messages wrote on my truck. Messages left on the front of my house. So yes, I would like this to come to an end. And that's why I'm doing this tonight. That's why we are doing this interview, so to speak. But at this point, I look at it as it is done. This was what was asked of me. I like to believe done everything that's been asked of me voluntarily. I've gone to every interview. I have been recorded multiple times. But again, I do not wish any of this upon anybody. But I feel like it is done. I even had Adult Protective Services called on me. Like, there was no findings that I abused anybody, so Like again, it's been one, excuse my language, one hell of a ride. Not just for me, not just for my family, not just for the community, but also obviously Tricia and Steve. And again, I understand this has not been fun, but I would never, ever wanted to hurt them. I cared about them deeply. I was out there all the time, not for work, just to see them. But like I said, I encourage everybody here to do their own research. There's plenty of information to read through. I will say it is very one-sided, that it is taken out of proportion, that there's multiple lines on there from the messages that actually do not even sync up. They're from months and months different apart, but all shown together, that looks like they were all sent at the same time. And if you need or have any questions for me, like I said, my number is all over Tioga. Send me a text. I will answer your question to the best of my ability.
Bob Anderson, I got, first of all, I'm really good friends with Steve. And I feel for everything that's going on here. And I asked Steve point blank about 3 weeks ago if there was any issue at all with Steve and I. He said everything was okay. He said that in front of the secretary also. Does that mean anything? To me, it does. You know, when somebody looks in the eyes and they say, the issue's done. The things happen the way they are, maybe not. But I truly believe that if there's an investigation with cops and stuff, that should be in the cop hand, nobody else's. And I don't think that anybody should be going around and trying to get information or whatever. It should come from Pat and Steve to the cops, not anybody else. But you know, after this last weekend, you know, with all this stuff that we're going on, this big fire and stuff, I was hoping that tonight that we could all pull together, because let me tell you something. The fire department, the EMTs, I thought was gonna maybe bring the city back together. This city right now, there are so many people that got hate in their hearts, and we gotta stop it. This hate is killing our town. And I feel for Steve, I feel for the IDs and everything, and don't get me wrong, I'm not taking sides on what I'm saying, and I'm telling you what Steve ID told me. And I believe Steve, if he told me that there's no issues, I believe him. But I hope we can all go past, this city has got to come together. It's, you know, what's been going on in the past, it's gotta stop. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you for that.
All right, does anyone have any other questions regarding this specific agenda item? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the consent approval. All right, number 14 is a local charity permit. That's from the Sportsman Association in the amount of $10,697.25. Number 15 is a local charity permit for the Tioga High School. That's ranging between $500 and $800. 16 is a local charity permit for the Tioga area Dollar for Scholars. That's only $160. 17 is a special liquor license for the Rig Lounge hosting the sportsman's banquet. And then we have payroll for September 20th, payroll for October 7th, and then the September 2024 bills, so. So we just need a motion to approve the consent.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, with the motion and the second to approve the consent approval agenda, we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, lastly. The motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
I will second.
All right, with, motion and a second to adjourn, we'll move to a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, we are adjourned at 9:10 p.m.